Joining us now, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. Welcome back to the show, Secretary.
Thank you, Shannon. Good to be with you.
Okay, so let's start here. When Nate says 15 to 20%, which you floated, what does air travel in the U.S. look at a 20% cut?
So first off, yesterday we had 81 staffing triggers with air traffic controllers across the airspace. You reported there was a whole slew of cancellations and delays across the airspace. That trend line is getting worse, right? More controllers aren't coming to work day by day, the further they go without a paycheck because Democrats refuse to pay them. And so as I look 2 weeks out, as we get closer to Thanksgiving travel, listen, I think what's going to happen is you're going to have air travel slow to a trickle. As everyone wants to travel to see their families, I think we're going to see air traffic controllers, very few of them coming to work, which means, yes, you'll have a few flights taking off and landing at our different airports across the country. But the thousands of flights that happen every day to move people around the country for this great American holiday, it's not going to happen. You're going to have massive disruption. I think a lot of angry Americans, and I think we have to be honest about where this is going. It doesn't get better. It gets worse until these air traffic controllers are going to be paid.
Okay, so the polling shows that most Americans think the blame lies with the White House, with this administration, with Republicans in Congress. Want to read you a headline from Slate. They say this: Trump thinks canceled flights, long TSA lines, and chaotic airports will end the shutdown, but he's wrong, they say. Your holiday plans may get disrupted because the president wants to own the libs. They add, best of luck to the secretary in this game of airplane chicken. So what's your response to Slate?
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating to hear liberals. It's not just Slate. It was Chuck Schumer was throwing shade our way, if you will. We have done all we can to make sure we minimize disruption, that we keep the airspace safe. And again, I didn't create the problem. It's Senate Democrats who did. We went so far as I had a text from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth yesterday, who's made an offer that he has air traffic controllers in the reserves. If we could deploy them, and I don't know that we can, we got to see what airspaces they worked in, but he'll step in and try to provide some relief in the skies. We're trying to minimize the pain for the American people. And in response to Slate, there's only one side that has voted every single time, 14 times, to keep the government shut down. It's only Republicans who have voted to open it up. And so to think that Republicans are to blame who vote to open the government and Democrats vote to shut it down, the Republicans would be blamed for that? Again, I think it's Democrats have a little more power with liberal media across the landscape, and that can be the perception of the American people. But Donald Trump in this administration, we're trying to minimize the pain on the American people and make it better for travelers. But in the end, I'm not going to have many tools left in my toolbox, Shannon. It's only going to get worse. And again, we try to minimize the risk. But when we do that, flights are delayed and canceled.
Yeah, and you've said that that's based on data that you have. And there are skeptics out there. They include Democratic Congressman Rick Larsen. He says this: shutting down parts of our national airspace system is a dramatic and unprecedented step that demands more transparency. The FAA must immediately share any safety risk assessment and related data that this decision is predicated on with Congress. Would you be willing to do that, share it with him or other members of Congress who want to see what you're using to make these decisions?
Yeah, if I didn't look at the data, Shannon, and we had an incident in the airspace, Rick, who's a friend of mine, would be one of the first ones to blame me. Chuck Schumer would blame me because I didn't look at the data and make the right decisions. You remember back to the DCA air crash. The only comparison I want to make here is that the FAA in the last administration, they didn't look at the data, that there were near misses between helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft. They didn't look at it. We're now looking at the data. We see an increase in a loss of separation. Airplanes are in the sky. They're becoming too close to each other. They're breaching that safety distance. Number one, we see ground incursions. We also see more complaints from pilots that are saying, hey, I'm getting a lack of responsiveness from the controller, or the controller seems stressed, or they're not using the right language that controllers are supposed to use. Those complaints have also increased. So we look at that in total and say, this is going in the wrong direction. What tools do I have to deploy to make sure we can keep the flying public safe? And this was the right decision. By the way, those who say this is political, this decision to reduce capacity by 10%, it didn't come from me. It didn't come from the White House. It came from the safety team in the FAA, the career people who do this every day as part of their jobs. They made the recommendation that we have to take additional action to keep people safe. They sent it up to us. and we agreed with them, and then we deployed this plan of 4% today. It's going to go to 6% on Tuesday, and by Friday it's going to be at 10%. That's what we think is appropriate to keep the flying public out of harm's way.
Okay, you mentioned the public, so I want to ask a question about private and give you a chance to clarify this as well. Former Congresswoman, Democrat Katie Porter, she's running for the Democratic nomination for governor out in California. She says private planes are still going, they're benefiting, that the president's, quote, billionaire friends are still flying. So can you clarify for us what's happening with the private industry?
Sure. Well, first, Katie Porter is a hack. That's not what happened. In the order, we reduced general aviation or jet travel by 10%. But what we've also done is said, you know, if we have a staffing trigger, I think Nate was at LaGuardia or in Newark. We have one in Newark this morning. If we have a staffing trigger, there's going to be no jets flying into Newark. We prioritize commercial aircraft. Now, if there's a space to fly in with general aviation or a jet, we'll allow them in. But the priority is the traveling public. And so that's been the order. That's been how this has been implemented. So it's nice political theater, but that's not what we're doing. Jet travel, general aviation, is playing second fiddle to American travelers on commercial aircraft.
Okay, so you've been in Congress. You know what it's like. You've been there during a shutdown. You know how difficult it is to get things moving. Yeah. There have been several measures, some by Democrats, some by Republicans, some even bipartisan, trying to get pay for air traffic controllers during this time. Congress is getting paid, even though they're not there, and they have had a couple of members step up and say, we should give up our pay during this. Let's change the law on that. But until this all gets worked out, can you foresee a situation in which, yes, go ahead and pay the air traffic controllers. We'll figure out the rest later, maybe take the money away from Congress. But, you know, make a trade-off so that you can get those air traffic controllers paid now? Or do you think this entire thing should stay wrapped up in resolving the shutdown as a whole?
So I agree with the president. We shouldn't have pain on the American people. And again, the president found a donor to pay the military. That was good on the president. If we can find a way to pay air traffic controllers, I want to do that as well. You even saw the president paid SNAP benefits during the shutdown in the month of October. He has done everything he can to minimize the pain. And so if we can find a pathway to pay controllers, I would welcome that. But I think the easy solution is do what Republicans had offered. Again, just have funding from October be the same as what it was in September. No riders, no laws, no changes to the legislation. Make it clean. And then come back and go through the process that you're supposed to use to legislate, which is you introduce bills, you debate bills, and you vote on bills. That's the way it's done. You don't use the American people as leverage Democrats and then say, what I want is, I want to get my way. I lost the last election. I want my way. I want to hold the American people hostage. I want to hold air travelers hostage until you give me what I want. I lost the election, but I'm going to inflict pain on you Republicans and the American people until I get my way. That's stomping your feet, pounding your fist, taking your ball and trying to go home. That's not what we do in America. And so I think you should have a clean CR, and they should debate this. If there's a health care conversation, let's have it. But do it when the government is open and Americans get the benefit of the taxes they pay to fund their government and their great American workers.
Well, the Senate is going to try again this afternoon. We wish them all the best in finding a resolution. Secretary Duffy, thank you for your time.
Yes, we do.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.